In this video, I'm going to show you how to install and set up a whole bunch of options in WSL. In a previous video, which I've linked below, I showed you many of the cool features available in WSL, like how to use remote desktop with an Ubuntu distro running in WSL, or how to use Kex on Kali Linux so that you get the GUI interface on Kali Linux, how to use applications such as Hashcat within WSL so that you can leverage the GPU to crack Wi-Fi hashes as an example. In this video, I'm going to show you the full process, how to install WSL, how to set up a bunch of cool options within WSL. If you've already watched the previous video where I show you how to install WSL, then jump to this timestamp so that you skip that part of the video and go straight to the part where I show you how to set up a whole bunch of other options within WSL. Okay, without further ado, let's get started installing and setting up WSL. Now, before you install WSL, you probably want to look at the prerequisites. The prerequisites are you must be running Windows 10 version 2004 and higher, build 19041 and higher, or use Windows 11 using the commands below. To install WSL, you simply type WSL-install. So to check that I meet the prerequisites, I'm going to type about your PC. And in this example, I've got Windows 11 Home, version is 24H2, installed in this state. This is the OS build. So I meet the requirements to install WSL. Now, I much prefer installing WSL and the distributions using the CLI, but you can use the Microsoft Store. So I'll search for Microsoft Store, and I could search for Kali as an example, so Kali Linux, and notice that app can be downloaded and installed from the Microsoft Store. So as they're showing you here, you could run Burpsuite on WSL. But again, rather than doing it this way, I much prefer just using the CLI, but that is an option if you prefer doing it that way. So I'm going to open up PowerShell. Now I'll just type WSL here. And notice on this version of Windows, we're told that to install WSL, we need to use -- install. On other versions of Windows, if you type WSL, it actually just asks you to install it, and you can just press enter to install it. But on this version, and to follow the official documentation, you need to type WSL -- install. So I'll clear the screen, and I can type WSL -- install per the recommendations. Now, we are told that you need to run the command as administrator. I'm logged in as administrator, so I didn't have to do that. Remember, you need administrator rights to install WSL. So again, command is WSL -- install. I'll press enter, and we're told that it requires elevated privileges. And we asked, do you want to allow the app to make changes? And the answer is yes, we do. And you can see it's installing the virtual machine platform. Okay, so the virtual machine platform is installed. We're told that the app needs to make changes. I'm going to say yes. We're told that the virtual machine platform has been installed, and now it's installing the Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay, so WSL has now been installed, and Ubuntu is now being installed. That is the default distribution when you install WSL. Okay, so Ubuntu has been installed, and now we're told that the requested operation is successful. Changes will not be effective until the system is rebooted. So what I'll do now is restart the computer. And once it reboots, we should be able to start using Ubuntu on this Windows computer. Computer is now rebooted, and I can log in. So what I'll do is start PowerShell. And if I now type WSL, notice something is happening. It says provisioning the new WSL instance, Ubuntu. It might take a while. What we need to do now is create a default Linux username. It doesn't have to be the same as Windows. So I'll say David, and I'll specify a password and log in. And as you can see there, we are now running Ubuntu. Just to make the point, if I type lsb_release-a, you can see we're running Ubuntu 2404 LTS. So type exit now. We're back in Windows. WSL-list shows us distributions that we've installed. We've installed the default, which is Ubuntu. So I'll clear the screen here and just show you that again. So WSL-list, default is Ubuntu. If I use the option online, that shows me other distributions that I can install. So I'll just do that again, WSL-list-online. Notice we can install Kali Linux as an example, or a different version of Ubuntu, or Debian. Different distributions can be installed. So at the moment, the list shows us that we only have Ubuntu installed. If I want to install another distribution, I would use the command WSL -- install - distribution or D. And here I could specify Kali Linux as an example. If I can spell correctly, so Kali Linux, and notice that's now downloading Kali Linux onto this machine and we'll install it. It's fantastic that you can install different distributions of Linux and run that all locally within Windows. So Kali Linux is being installed. And notice we're told that we can launch it by using the command WSL -D Kali Linux. So I'll clear the screen again. WSL list shows us that we have Kali and Ubuntu installed. If I type WSL, that will start the default distribution, which is Ubuntu. Exit, look at my list. If I want to run Kali, I have to specify that distribution. So WSL -D Kali Linux. And that starts Kali. Okay, so we're told to specify a username. So I'll use something different here and I'll specify my password. LSB _release -A shows us that we are running Kali now. So type exit again. WSL -- list shows us that we have two versions of Linux. I could start Kali as an example by specifying it here, or I could simply search for it in Windows. And notice it shows up as a app, and I could run that app. If I wanted to run Ubuntu, I could search for the Ubuntu app and run that. And there you go. I've got Ubuntu and Kali running on that laptop. Now, we can use this command, dpkg query, to list the number of packages installed. There are only 282 packages installed. Now, if we did the same test on a virtual machine, you would have 2,793 packages, much more than you have within WSL. So you could run the command Kali tweaks to install additional software. So what do you want to install? Hardening, meta packages, other options. So I'm going to choose meta packages. And then you can decide what to install. Notice there are Kali Windows resources, the default, everything, headless, a whole bunch of other options, including WSL. So that's been selected. So what I'll do here is select the Linux default option, so Kali default toolset, and click apply and select OK. We're told that our system is not up to date. We need to update it. So I'm going to click OK to update it. Select yes to install the software. So scrolling up, so the command that was used in the background is sudo apt get full upgrade. This is going to take a while, so I'll speed up the video at this point, but essentially we are upgrading the version of Kali to the latest release, and then we are installing additional software. As an example again, on this laptop, I have all of these applications because I installed the additional software. Now you can get Kali to automatically change MAC addresses, so I'm going to say yes to that. Now with Kismet, we're told that it needs root privileges for some of its functions. However, running it as root is not recommended. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to select no here for dump cap. And I'm going to say standalone for SSL. So basically, I'm just going with the defaults. Okay, so we're told that we can press enter to continue. So I'll press enter now. Now we're back to the main menu where I selected meta packages. So I could select that again. And notice I can see the various packages that are installed. So Kali Linux default is installed. We've got the top 10. We've got Kali Linux for WSL. So if I click apply now, I'm sent back. And what I'll do is quit that menu. So now notice if I type lsb _release -A, I'm running Kali Linux 2025.1. So we have upgraded the version of Kali here. I also have a lot of tools installed that weren't installed previously. So as an example, Hashcat is installed. If I didn't run the Kali tweaks command, I would have to manually install Hashcat on WSL. Now we don't have a GUI at the moment on Kali. All I have is the CLI. So what I can do is type sudo apt install Kali Linux Kex. So as you can see, software is now being installed. Okay, so that's now completed. So what I can do is type Kex. We need to specify a password. So I'm going to say Kali. So I'm going to specify a password. We're told that it's too short, so I'll do that again. I'm not going to set a view-only password. The Kex server has started. And there you go. I've got Kali Linux running on this computer. Now, if I press F8, I can either disconnect. Really important that you disconnect your session. Or I could say I don't want to use full screen anymore. So I can reduce that. As you can see, I've got Kali within a terminal as well as a GUI running on Windows. And if I click here, I can see password attacks such as Hashcat. So I could run Hashcat here. So I could say Hashcat-I, and that will show me if I have a GPU on the computer or just a CPU. As you can see here, this specific laptop only has a CPU. I could obviously just do that through the CLI. And as you can see here, I only have a CPU available. I don't have a GPU available. But again, here I could start GUI applications such as Firefox and go to kali.org. Or as an example, start Burpsuite. I'm not going to send information about Burp. I'm going to accept the license agreement and click Next. And I can start Burpsuite on that laptop. The reason it works, once again, is that I ran Kali tweaks, which gave me a lot of extra software, which you wouldn't have if you just installed WSL with just the default software. So again, proxy, I could open up the Burpsuite browser directly here. And there you go. I've got the Portswigger website open, and through their browser, I could go to kali.org. And I could also run interception if I wanted to, but I'll close Burp down. Okay, big tip here is make sure that you press F8 and you click disconnect to disconnect your GUI session. Don't forget to do that. Once again, on this laptop over here, the MSI laptop, I also have the GUI. And again here, I would need to type disconnect to shut down my session. And to open up that again, I could simply type Kex, and there you go. It's opened the GUI in full screen, and I could stop full screen and just show it as a window. In this section, I'm going to show you how to install the required software so that you can use the GPUs from within WSL. So at the moment, as an example, if I run Hashcat-I, firstly, Hashcat is not installed here, so I'll say sudo apt install Hashcat and say yes to install that software. Okay, so clear the screen. Let's try that again. Hashcat-I. What you'll notice here is we only see a CPU. We don't see the GPU. We only have access to the CPU from within WSL. But if I type NVIDIA SMI, you can see that there is a GPU on this computer. So NVIDIA SMI, CUDA version is this. We can see that there's an NVIDIA GTX RTX 4090 within this laptop. So it's there, I just don't have access to it within Hashcat. All I have access to is the CPU. So the first thing we need to do is download the relevant software from NVIDIA. These commands are available in the PDF. So I'll press enter. Software is now downloaded. So now we'll install the CUDA keyring. So sudo dpkg to install it. And there you go, it's installed. Sudo apt update to update our references. So I'll clear the screen, and now we can install the CUDA toolkit. So that's now being installed. Again, the commands are available in the PDF. Okay, there you go. The software is now installed. So I'll clear the screen. And now if I type Hashcat-I, does it pick up the GPU? And the answer is yes, it does. You can see the GPU is now available to Hashcat. So on my desktop here is an 8-digit hash. So let's go to that directory. So mount C users David downloads desktop ls shows us that hash. I'll clear the screen. So what I'll do here is run Hashcat. The device is 1, which is our GPU. We're going to do brute force attack against a Wi-Fi password. This is the file on my Windows desktop, and we're going to use 8 digits to crack it. So Hashcat is now starting. Type S to get a status, 8-digit mask, cracking a Wi-Fi password. There's the file name. Notice we can add W3 to increase performance. We are cracking using the GPU, device 1. So I'll press S to get a status update. You can see we're about 38% way through cracking. Okay, and there you go. Took about 1 minute and 10 seconds to crack this 8-digit password. There is the password. So we were able to leverage the GPU in this Windows computer from within WSL. Now, by default, when you install WSL, the default installation is going to be Ubuntu. But as an example, I may want to make Kali the default installation. So as an example, if I type WSL here, I am taken into Ubuntu 24.04. Type exit, clear the screen. List again shows me that that's because this is the default installation in WSL. So if I want to set the default installation to, let's say, Kali, I would use the command WSL set default Kali Linux and press enter. So list now shows that that's the default. So if I type WSL, rather than being taken into Ubuntu, I am now in Kali Linux. That's my default installation. Type exit here. I'll clear the screen. Again, the list shows me that Kali is the default. If I add the option verbose, I can see the state of my running WSL distributions. In this example, Ubuntu 22.04 is stopped, but Kali is running and Ubuntu is running. Status can also be used to see the default distribution. So you can see Kali is the default distribution. The version of WSL that we're using is WSL version 2. WSL version 1 is not supported on the system. So what I'm going to do now is continue on this computer, much more powerful computer, and show you a whole bunch of options available in WSL. What I'll do is run PowerShell. And notice on this computer, if I type WSL --list, I have a whole bunch of distributions installed, with Kali being the default distribution. What you'll also notice is I've actually installed multiple instances of Kali Linux. The way you do that is you can't simply type --install Kali Linux, because it's going to complain that that installation is already there. So if I download Kali and try and install it using the default name of Kali Linux, it's going to complain because that's already installed. So notice we told the distribution with the supplied name already exists. Use the --name option to choose a different name. So all I need to do is specify a name, let's say Kali Linux 4 for this example, because I've already got other versions of Kali installed over there. Notice it's been downloaded and now it's being installed. And we're now told that the distribution has successfully been installed. It can be launched via WSL and the distribution name. So WSL-D Kali Linux, in this example 3, that makes the point really that I can run multiple versions of Kali. So I'll open up another PowerShell window. Notice in the previous window I launched 3, and here I could specify my username and password. So that's Kali 3, and in this window I could start 4. So I have multiple instances of the Kali Linux distribution running on Windows. So it's not like you're stuck using only one instance of Kali. You could have multiple instances of Kali or Ubuntu or other operating systems. So on this one, specify the username. I'll keep it the same. And there you go. What that means is I could install software on one instance and not on another. So if I just search for Kali here, that's going to run the default Kali installation. So on this one, if I type lsb_release-a, you can see that we're running release 2025.1. But on this one, which is the new installation, I'm running 024.4. So different versions of Kali running. On this installation, which is the brand new one, Hashcat is not found. But on this one, Hashcat is available. So I could type hashcat-i to get information about the GPU on this computer. And scrolling up, you can see that the NVIDIA GPU is available, but on the new installation, Hashcat is not found. So as you can see there, I can install multiple instances of a distribution. So I'll open up PowerShell again. On this computer here, I have these distributions available to me. Again, if I look online, I could install other versions of Ubuntu on this Windows computer. Lots of options available in WSL. Here's another one. I'll start PowerShell. WSL --list gives me the list of distributions installed. In this case, I will start Kali Linux 4. This is a brand new installation. So as an example, I don't have Hashcat installed here. If I try and run Firefox, we're told that that file doesn't exist. So I'll do sudo apt update to update my references. And what I'll do is run sudo apt install Firefox ESR to install Firefox. I'm going to say yes to install the software. Software is now being installed. So now if I run Firefox, and I'll put ampersand at the end so we get our terminal back, notice Firefox is running. I could go to the Kali website, click download as an example, click installer images, and I could download the installer as an example. I could go to Kali tools, Kali documentation, etc. I am running Firefox as a GUI application from within WSL. I'm getting an error here. So I could do a apt update and then upgrade my operating system. Notice we've got the option to upgrade. I won't do that here. Let's try and run Wireshark. Not found. So I could say sudo apt install Wireshark and install that. Please note that in this example, I haven't got Kex installed. Go to this part of the video if you want to see how to do that. I'm simply installing GUI applications. I'll say no for that option about capturing. Okay, Wireshark is now installed. So sudo Wireshark ampersand. And notice I have got Wireshark running as a GUI application in WSL. This is running within Linux. So I'm not running Windows here. This is a Linux GUI application. So you can see the command output there. If I ping kali.org as an example, notice the ping succeeds and I see those ICMP packets within Wireshark. You can see ARP, etc., etc. The IP addresses used here are 172.19.237.126. So IP address, you can see that's the IP address within Kali. So I'm capturing traffic within WSL using a GUI application, in this case Wireshark. I'll quit that. Now I haven't installed Kex, so if I run that, notice we have to install the Kex application. So sudo apt install Kali Kex. I've only installed specific GUI applications on this version of Kali. I'll click plus to open up another PowerShell window. So WSL --list here. Let's run the default Kali. So I'll just say WSL. That'll run this default installation. Here, if I type Kex, it works because I previously installed Kex on this version of Kali Linux, but it wasn't installed on the other version. So this is a separate installation of Kali. I've got multiple Kali installs. One is just running Firefox and Wireshark as a GUI application, but this one is running the full Kex experience. And I've installed a bunch of other applications here, including Burpsuite. So I'll press F8 to allow me to disconnect that session. This is a different version of Kali. Again, lsb_release-a shows me that I'm running 2025.1 here, whereas here I'm running 2024.4. Now back on the laptop at the top, if I type exit, that'll exit out of Kali. I'll clear the screen here. WSL --list shows me that I only have Ubuntu and Kali Linux installed. Again, I could type WSL --list online to see online installations. So as an example, I could say WSL --install Ubuntu 2204 or whichever distribution you want to install. Now, while that's installing, I'll search for Ubuntu in Windows and you can see the Ubuntu app. That is the previous version of Ubuntu that we installed. It's the default version that's installed when you install WSL. So as you can see there, actually jumping back here, you can see that this version of Ubuntu 22.04 has been installed. But back on this release, if I type lsb_release-a, notice 24.04.2 LTS is installed. Okay, so it's asked me for a username. I'll specify my username and my password. And notice now installation is successful. And I've got Ubuntu 22.04. So again, lsb_release-a. This is the version of Ubuntu on this window. So I'm running two versions of Ubuntu. Now I'm going to show you how to install the GUI on Ubuntu. I've already shown you how to install that on Kali. So to do that, I'm going to type sudo apt update and then sudo apt upgrade. Press enter, and that will update our references and update the software. Say yes to install the additional software. Okay, so software is now installed. Now we need to type sudo apt install, and we're going to install our GUI with those options and say Y to install the software. So that's now being installed. Okay, so that's installed. We now need to install xrdp. So sudo apt install xrdp and say yes to install the software. Software is now installed. We now need to start the RDP service and enable it. We now need to specify our session information, so I'm going to do that. And for good measure, I'll restart the xrdp service. IP address shows us the IP address of the server. That's its IP address. So I'll copy that. And then let's search for remote desktop. And I'll put that IP address in and click connect. And as you can see, we need to say yes to connect to it. I'll put in my username and my password. And there you go. I've got a Ubuntu GUI now running in WSL. So as an example, I'll maximize this, open up the default web browser. Now it's giving me problems. So what I'll do is install Firefox. So I can just do that through the CLI. So sudo apt install Firefox. Okay, so Firefox is now being installed. Okay, so as you can see, Firefox has now been installed. So going back to our remote desktop, let's see if this works better. Click on the browser. And there you go. So I'm going to skip these various steps. You could obviously do this better, but as an example, I'll go to kali.org and there you go. I've got a web browser running within a remote desktop session within WSL, in this case, Ubuntu. Now I've shown you a whole bunch of options in WSL. Please let me know in the comments if you've learned something. Hopefully you've learned to do something new with WSL and see the power of joining Linux and Windows together using WSL. Let me know if there are any other topics that you want me to cover with regards to WSL, such as networking or other topics. I'm also thinking about creating a Udemy course, which goes into more detail. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. I've also put a link below if you're interested in joining that course. I'm David Bombal, and I want to wish you all the very best.